Mission, top secret. Chances of survival, low. Crew, expendable. The target, a fortified hydro plant in the Norwegian province Telemark. Overall objective, keep the Nazis from getting an atomic bomb at all costs. I'm Indy Neidell. This is a World War II special episode about the Heavy Water War. On February 16, 1943, a Halifax bomber carrying a group of 6 commandos clad in white camouflage approaches the Norwegian coastline. It flies low, hoping to bypass the German radar undetected. Tensions are high. Just 3 months earlier, Operation Freshman ended in disaster. 2 gliders carrying elite British paratroopers and Royal Engineers lost their way in bad weather and crashed. The survivors surrendered to the Germans, but since they were carrying civilian clothes, Norwegian money, and explosives, they were seen as spies and saboteurs, and under the German commando order, they were interrogated and executed. Now, in mid-February, Operation Gunnerside is to succeed where Freshman failed, to delay the German atomic research program by destroying their supplies of heavy water. Research into the possible benefits of atomic energy has made huge progress over the past decade. Physicists and chemists discovered that by bombarding the atoms of unstable elements like uranium with neutrons, the collision would release enormous amounts of energy. Nuclear fission, the splitting of an atom's nucleus, would release even more neutrons, which could repeat the cycle. This chain reaction could potentially unleash unprecedented levels of energy. Easily destructive energy. Of course, there were many scientists that wished to use the power of the atom for the benefit of mankind. Still, it's another one of those ironies of history that these discoveries were made at a time when the world was descending into war. British intelligence is well aware that the Germans are asking themselves the same question the British are. Can atomic energy be weaponized? Werner Heisenberg and other members of the German Uranium-Club have thought that they might be close to a scientific breakthrough, but they are still lacking some key components. Experiments with the atomic fission process are fickle and almost impossible to control. They need a moderator, which can slow down the neutrons. Such a moderator is heavy water. It has a longer reactivity time than regular water because of the heavy isotope deuterium. Heavy water does occur naturally, but it is extremely rare. One way to artificially create it, however, is through electrolysis, but for that, you need specialized equipment and an experienced facility. One such facility is the Norwegian hydro plant Vemork at the Rjukan waterfall in the county Telemark. Following the invasion of Norway in April 1940, German scientists were keen on continuing experiments there, but to their dismay, Norwegian agents had been able to smuggle the heavy water reserves out of the country. The German atomic weapons program had to begin from scratch, but it had begun. Over the summer of 1942, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill met with members of the U.S. Uranium Committee, who had just received a huge budget increase for their own atomic research. The question on everyone's mind was, how close were the Nazis to using atomic energy? They reckoned that the Vemork hydro plant was producing around 286 pounds of heavy water a month. What if the German scientists figured out how to weaponize that first? An atomic bomb in the hands of Adolf Hitler? It was quickly agreed that they had to destroy the hydro plant. But how? A bombing raid was deemed too risky. There was no guarantee that the bombs would achieve total destruction of the electrolytic equipment. Inserting an agent to sabotage it from within might be possible, but also a suicide mission, if it could even succeed to begin with. After much debate, British High Command settled on the commando raids. This time, however, now in 1943, the men would not be inserted by gliders, but would instead parachute their way down. This might reduce the risk of repeating the previous disaster, but just to be sure, the commandos would carry poison capsules in case they got captured. The commandos do indeed make a successful drop onto the Hardanger Plateau. Seemingly unnoticed by the Germans, they ski their way towards another team of 4 commandos already inserted. Together, they prepare for the raid. Most of the men have served in the Norwegian Royal Army and are very well versed in skiing, survival techniques, and Arctic warfare. Additional experts from the British Special Operations Executive have further honed their skills in marksmanship, map reading, and camouflage. Commando training in the far north of Scotland has included nighttime parachuting, mountain climbing, and advanced rope work. These men are the best of the best, with guns, with knives, with bare hands, men who are trained to ignore pain, ignore the weather, and to live off the land. At Vemork, their job is to succeed by any and all means necessary. And all those skills might indeed be necessary. The Germans at Telemark are not only on high alert, they're nervous. Norwegian resistance fighters and British agents have been executing covert operations all over the country the last few months, sabotaging railway lines and industrial facilities. When the Commandos arrive at their destination the night of the 28th, they find Vemork under serious lockdown. And ever since the failure of Operation Freshman, German counterintelligence has been busy sweeping the countryside for potential collaborators and resistance fighters. Maps and notes found on the captured commandos had indeed hinted that another raid against the hydro plant might come, so they've beefed up their defenses. The hydro plant has been turned into a fortress. Guard towers with searchlights, an electrified barbed wire fence, patrols with dogs, mines, hidden machine gun posts, anti-aircraft guns, you name it. The direct approach is out of the question. But the Commandos have a trump card, an inside man. The former manager of the plant, a man named Jomar Brun, escaped the Gestapo and got in contact with the Norwegian resistance. He has given them data about the layout of the plant and its security system. From Brun, the Commandos know that this well-guarded fortress has a weakness, a railway line running through the mountains to bring equipment and supplies into the compound. For that, the train must pass the high fence through a gate, the obvious weak point. Because of its remote location, the Commandos assume that it is only lightly guarded. They ditch their skis and camouflage suits and get out their grappling hooks. Scaling the rocky ravines, the harsh wind of the Norwegian winter muffles their sounds. Slowly, they make their way up until the gate is only 100 meters or so away. As expected, only 2 German sentries stand guard. Remaining in the darkness, the Commandos get as close as possible. They check their watches. It is just before midnight. If their intel is accurate, then the Germans will soon change guards. They ready their gear. Thompson machine guns, knives, Nobel 808 explosives, everything is set. As calculated, at dead midnight, the pair of guard prepares to be relieved. This is the chance the Commandos have hoped for. Quickly they sneak up, and once behind some storage compartments, they go to work with bolt cutters and slip into the compound. Now the main mission can begin. The Commandos split up into 2 groups. Team A is the demolition team. They will make their way into the basement, where the electrolytic capacitors are operated. Team B is the fire team. They are to cover the advance with submachine guns and grenades directed at the barracks, just in case everything goes to hell. As expected, the basement door is locked, but true to Brun's information, the secret second entrance, the cable duct, is open. 2 commandos of the demolition team crawl inside the tight space. For 10 minutes, they slowly make their way through the duct. The workers beneath them are unaware of their presence. Once the commandos reach an exit, they silently lower themselves down into the basement. Inside the capacitor room, they quickly overwhelm the surprised workers and lock the door. They have reached their target. The 2 commandos plant 20 high-explosive nitrocellulose charges around the electrostatic equipment and the tubes of heavy water. It will not take much to spoil the purity of the whole bunch, but they are not taking any chances. Once the fuses are lit, the commandos dash for the door. The explosion rocks the basement as machinery and containers rupture inside the capacitor room. Once outside, however, the commandos are surprised by the silence. No alarms are ringing. In fact, the heavy concrete of the basement has muffled the sound of the explosion. At least for now, the commandos are in the clear, but it still cannot take long until the Germans notice the spreading fire. With no time to lose, the saboteurs hurry back the way they came. Team A meets with Team B, and both sneak through the hole in the fence and make their escape. As they descend the ravines, the alarm begins to ring out. Dogs bark and angry Germans yell in the distance as floodlights light up the dark. They have finally noticed the attack. But luckily for the commandos, it is too late. Through the cold and the snow, the men escape into the night. The raid is a total success. and one of the most daring secret missions of the war. The capacitors have been destroyed, and the assembled heavy water is either spoiled or gone down the drain. Approximately 500 kilos of the precious resource have been lost. Now the Commandos must disappear before they can be captured. They disperse. They have a better chance of escaping if they move alone or in small groups. Over the coming weeks, they dodge patrols or make their way into neutral Sweden. The German atomic research program has been, if not exactly halted, then at least severely handicapped. It will take them months to get the heavy water electrolysis at Vemork up and running again, and many more months to once more get the heavy water. This is time the Allies can use to further their own research or find other ways to cripple the German war machine. For time, of course, is the most precious resource of all. We did a special a while back about the beginning of the Manhattan Project, the American nuclear program. And you can check that out right here. And you can join the Time Ghost Army at timeghost.tv or patreon.com so that we can make more specials, more regular episodes, more series, and more everything. See you next time.